97th Territorial Cup game. The trophy will remain in Tucson this year as the Wildcats trounce the Sun Devils 59-23. Arizona State finishes the season at 3-9, which is an identical record to last season, and 2-7 in the Pac-12. Nick Borgia of Devil's Digest joined alongside publisher Hode Urbino. And Hode, we've seen our fair share of blowouts this season, but just like last week, this game felt like it was over before halftime even hit. It looked like Arizona was even potentially on their way to a 70-7 victory of their own.
Yeah, without a doubt, Nick. I think that maybe there's any consolation, and I put consolation in huge quotation marks, is that U of A was not able to duplicate the 2020 Territorial Cup game result where ASU did win in Tucson 70-7. But otherwise, I don't think there's really a whole lot of positives to take away from this game. You and I talked ad nauseum about the schedule in November and how hard it is setting up to be playing Utah, UCLA, Oregon, and Arizona. We said weeks ago that this Arizona team is nothing like an Arizona team that we've seen in recent years. You know, me covering the team for about 23 years, I have not seen a strong Arizona team like this, maybe since 2014, but when the Rich Rodriguez years, when actually they did go to the Pac-12 championship game by beating ASU in the Territorial Cup in Tucson that year. But this is a well-rounded Arizona team, and we talked about it a lot coming into this game, how this is not only an explosive offense, which is maybe right up there with Oregon and Washington, maybe a tad worse than that, and their defense absolutely put the clamps on Arizona State. There obviously were a lot of challenges that the Sun Devils were dealing on that side of the ball, but you just, again, talk about what we saw in the end of October as a really murderer's row of a schedule, and it really panned out to be that way. ASU does go 1-3, and even that win in UCLA was a win where they had to put a lot of tricks out of their bag, but ultimately just a really, really tough ending to a very tough season.
So coming into the game today for ASU, there was some quarterback controversy. Jaden Rashada was announced as the starter. Then it was found out later that he was late to a meeting, so therefore Trenton Bourguet was going to start. And as we just heard from Kenny Dillingham in the post-game presser, Bourguet was actually ill before the game and was unable to play, which led to a Jalen Conyers, Cameron Scadaboo-led first drive. But it was an interesting situation to say the least for this ASU offense, but overall only being able to put up 7 points when Rashada did ultimately come in the game in that first half just wasn't an all-around good performance for the offense.
The offense is very handcuffed when it has Cam Scadaboo, running back, Jalen Conyers, tight end, playing quarterback. And I'm not faulting those guys whatsoever. That's not their natural position. You know, Jalen Conyers hasn't played that position since high school. I know if Cam Scadaboo really played that position in high school, definitely didn't play that at Sacramento State, the school that he transferred from to Arizona State. So there's only so much you can really expect from those guys. Now, they did have a nice opening drive that went for 75 yards, all rushing. And Arizona State actually on the ground as a whole did rush for 224 yards. So the rushing game was never really an issue for Arizona State. But when you just have those two quarterbacks in the game, and you know the pass is probably not coming, and if it is coming, it's probably going to have a low rate of success. Again, nothing against them. They're not natural quarterbacks. Then obviously your offense is really handcuffed as it is, and they're playing, and we talked about it, one of the best defenses in the Pac-12, so that just really made for a bad combination. Jaden Rashada did have a rough outing, which I think a lot of us expected from a player that did not play since week 2. So he goes 10 of 22 for 82 yards. Did have a beautiful touchdown pass to Troy Mary, which ironically in such a blowout loss is going to go down as one of the best touchdown receptions we saw from Arizona State in this specific Territorial Cup game. But obviously it really was too little too late. Jaden Rashad also had 2 interceptions. And again, just like you really can't expect that much from Scadaboo and Conyers at quarterback, from a natural quarterback that hasn't played since the first week of September. There's really only so much you can expect. I think the offensive line, pass protection was shaky. That's something we really saw all season long. We saw some drops by wide receivers and tight ends not being able to get proper separation. So the offense that we saw today is really offense that we've seen in a lot of recent weeks. If anybody thought that Jaden Rashada was really going to save the offense, I think it was maybe putting just a little too much on his shoulders. There's just so many factors around him that really did inhibit the offense from playing better. Give him credit in the second half. They did show some life. I know that some people, probably mainly U of A fans, are going to say that U of A took the foot way off the gas pedal in the second half, and that's why ASU was able to perform the way they did. But I also feel that many games we saw, the offense takes a lot of punches maybe in the first half, but second half is able to play somewhat better with adjustments, with Jaden Rashada obviously getting more comfortable. But obviously, this offensive performance, I really can't say surprises anybody. Like I said, Nick, just huge back and forth and quarterback who's going to be the starter, having Connors and Scadaboo playing a lot of plays. And again, not taking anything away from Arizona. They played outstanding defense on Saturday afternoon.
So another tough outing for the ASU defense. It's 2 weeks in a row now, but as much as anyone can knock the ASU defense, we talked about in our preview how Arizona really is not far behind Oregon, and I would think that they made the case today that they are right up there with Oregon, the Arizona offense having their way against the ASU defense today.
Yeah, really tough for ASU to have back-to-back 600 yards game, but again, this goes back to our earlier point. This November schedule was going to be an absolute bear, no pun intended, and it was just going to be really, really hard for this defense, which I think really played pretty well for most of the season to really showcase their capabilities when they're playing against absolutely explosive offenses. I mean, this Arizona offense was very content of barely rushing the ball. Not Fatita, the redshirt freshman quarterback, absolutely outstanding. I mean, we've kind of seen from afar all season long the numbers that he's putting up, having U of A coming into this game on a 5-game winning streak, and today we actually saw why that was happening. He passed for 517 yards, 4 touchdowns. Did have the 1 interception late in the game when it really didn't matter. But I think the wide receivers, McMillan, Cowing, were just able to get separation for the wide receivers time after time. And Kenny Dillingham said after the game, look, even if you're rushing 4, okay, A, you need to get some kind of pressure even with those 4 down linemen, and B, if you are going to essentially put 7 players in coverage, those players really have to do a much better job slowing down the passing game. But the ASU secondary, even the ASU linebackers for that matter, just really were not able to find any solutions for those Arizona receivers. Kenny Dillingham even the week before the game said that these are NFL caliber wide receivers, and I don't think anybody can argue with that. Absolutely outstanding. And again, ASU did not have any answers to them whatsoever. Second half did play better. Again, it can go back to the other side of the ball in the argument. Did U of A really take the foot off the gas pedal quite a bit, and what wasn't really explosive in the second half? Even though they started the third quarter, I believe with back-to-back touchdown drives, and I think also all the drives they had in the first half ended up in scores, mostly touchdowns, obviously. So another really, really tough day in the office for the ASU defense, but they faced one of the best Wildcat offenses we saw in a long, long time. And again, it was no coincidence this team had a 5-game winning streak coming into Tempe, and now they're ending their regular season with a 6-game winning streak. And with that offense, you can definitely see why this U of A team is one of the best ones they've had probably in the last 10 years or so.
So that's a wrap on this season of football for Arizona State, year 1 under Kenny Dillingham, the final year in the Pac-12. But as Kenny Dillingham mentioned in the postgame presser, that the culture building, the foundation is being set. There's so many growing pains that this team has had to endure. We've seen just about all ends of that on the spectrum of Arizona State football this year. But Hode, where do you think this team stands now? Where do they go from here?
Well, Kenny Dillingham was very honest in saying, that right now this team is really in rock bottom. And again, it's not so much just losing 3 games in the month of November, but just the way that they lost, just really blowout losses, games that they were really never in. And Kenny Dillingham, even with all the issues that this team has, realizes that this is not acceptable. But he also talks about maybe, quote unquote, have to be in rock bottom just so it can really ascend from there. And I think he, was very, very positive about the culture that he laid down. He saw that there are some players after the game, you could see in their eyes that they can't wait to start the preparations for the 2024 season. And let's face it, there's some players that probably didn't have that look in their eyes, and that's why they're probably not going to be here next year. But with Kenny Dillingham, I just feel that he really is trying to build this program, brick by brick, and he knows he has to be patient. He said himself, he knows he knew he's not going to win 8 games this year. I mean, myself, true confession, I thought they might have been able to squeeze 5-6 wins, but that obviously did not happen either. We definitely saw a lot of close games. So the fight and the resolve of this team, even though it didn't always show up on the scoreboard, was always there. And even in a game like this, where it really was ugly on so many statistical categories, I still think we saw that. Kenny Dillingham said that the only thing worse than having a season right now is looking ahead 5 years from now and seeing that the program is not being built. The program is not really marching in the right direction. And look, let's not forget the C of A team that absolutely dominated ASU was only 1-11 a couple years ago, and look at them right now. And I think it's a team that can find success in the Big 12, maybe even at a higher level than they had from a very, very challenging Pac-12. That who knows if that's a conference on its way out, having maybe 2 teams in the college football playoffs. I mean, with everything that's going on right now, so. It's really just one of those necessary vicious learning curves that Kenny Dillingham, as a first-year head coach, and the program really had to endure. If you're an ASU fan, you're not having a great Thanksgiving weekend, losing to your in-state rival the way you did. But if you can look in 2025, 2026 to this 2023 season, as trying as it was, a season that did not show even an iota of improvement over what was a horrible 2022 season in terms of a win-loss record. But if you can see that 2-3 years from now, this program is just absolutely at a total different stratosphere and really marching in the right direction, then you just look back to this season and say, hey, you know what, it really sucked, but it really also was a necessary evil that this Arizona State team had to go through. So, obviously the burden of proof was on Kenny Dillingham to get the culture even more entrenched, get the players that he needs to get. Kenny Dillingham reminded to all of us, this game is still about NIL. It's not only about retaining the players that you want to retain, but also really attracting players from the portal, from the high school ranks. And that's one heck of a mission that Kenny Dillingham has. He even admitted that he probably won't be able to devote that much time going on the road recruiting because he's going to have to do fundraising efforts back here at home. So that's also another element that's really going to dictate the success of Arizona State. But I think that if you're an Arizona State fan, you still need to believe in Kenny Dillingham and what he's trying to entrench. I mean, to just look, what he did with Jaden Rashada. I mean, a starting quarterback that he believed gave him the best chance to win. He was late to a meeting, ironically, the very last meeting before game day, and he decided he's not going to play the first few series. And you saw the offense, scoring on the first drive with Scadaboo and Conyers running the ball really well, but after that, it just sputtered and sputtered. And by the time Jaden Rashada came in, it really seemed to be just a little too late. So those are some of the lumps that you really have to take as a program that you're trying to rebuild. And again, you just look at what happened at Arizona, even look at Florida State, where Kenny Dillingham used to coach. That's a team that could be in the college football playoffs in a couple of weeks. So again, it's just really all the necessary lessons that you have to learn. And again, if you can look at 25, 26 as those lessons really bearing the fruit you expect them to bear, then you just maybe shrug your shoulders on 2023 and say, hey, this is what it had to be.
All right, Hode. Well, thank you so much for your insight. It's been a heck of a ride. It's my last time covering ASU football at Devil's Digest. So thank you, Hode, for always supporting me, and thank you, subscribers, and everyone who tunes in to listen to us for always supporting. So there'll be plenty of off-season coverage for this ASU football team at DevilsDigest.com and at Devil's Digest on Twitter. But until then, we've got basketball. I've got some more hoops games to shoot, so I'm not going anywhere just yet. So anyways, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.